that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
If I'm gonna stand in a dress all day long, we do that, women do that anyway. You know what? We walk around in dresses and we don't get paid for it. Rachel,
did Steven Spielberg not pay you for your role in West Side Story? Did Disney fail to give you a healthy paycheck for, like, cry me a river? She's just exactly everything that we can't stand.
Who the hell are you to say all of Andrew's could get cut? Like, who are you?
Oh my God.
Are you Disney?
women can't even want to be in love anymore. That's some outdated construct. Oh, that was back in the 30s when women actually wanted to be around men, actually wanted to be in love.
Did Rachel Zegler just step into the Marvel universe while her last firestorm still burns? According to whispers bouncing through casting circles, the controversial star of Disney's embattled Snow White remake has allegedly auditioned for a major Marvel role.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be,
Oh.
and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true.
A move that has both insiders and audiences asking, is this a redemption arc or an industry misfire? The rumor mill didn't just spit this out quietly, it exploded. Sources speculate that Zegler, still caught in the backlash surrounding her high-profile Disney flop, may be positioning herself for a second act in one of the world's most powerful franchises.
What would you say to those who are just kind of overly critiquing the film at this point? You've worked so hard on it. All right.
But the question on everyone's mind isn't whether she could land the part. It's why now. Because if Hollywood has one unspoken rule, it's this. You don't audition for your next blockbuster while your current one is still falling apart. And yet, that may be exactly what's happening. Insiders say that Zegler's Marvel test was part of a quiet search for a new female lead tied to one of Marvel's upcoming reboots.
Even though women in 2023, we still come home. Even the most girl-bossy, feminist girls out there that I know, they still come home, they cuddle up on the couch, and you know what they watch? Rom-com.
Possibly part of the X-Men relaunch or an experimental streaming spin-off. But as soon as her name entered the conversation, so did the baggage. The Snow White disaster, the polarizing interviews, the social media implosions, and the million-dollar question, has she really earned the right to step back into the spotlight so soon? Because if Zegler's Marvel move is real, and that's still in the rumor phase, then she's walking a razor-thin line between bold reinvention and career self-sabotage.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button.
Hollywood watchers are already debating whether this is a risky pivot or a desperation play. And Marvel, a studio already juggling fan fatigue and shrinking goodwill, might not be in the mood for another PR nightmare. But let's rewind for a second. To understand why this possible audition set off alarm bells, you have to go back to where it all started.
Yeah, because there's nothing more effective than 19-year-olds educating the rest of the voting public while yelling, "Okay, boomer."
Back to a film called Snow White, and a backlash no one saw coming. What was supposed to be a triumphant reimagining of Disney's first animated feature instead became one of its most polarizing disasters in recent memory. Snow White, the film Rachel Zegler was chosen to lead, wasn't just a remake, it was a cultural flashpoint.
Oh my God.
And as critics, audiences, and even former Disney loyalists turned up the heat, Zegler's performance, and more importantly, her public behavior, became the center of a storm she could never quite escape. From the start, the backlash wasn't just about the movie itself. It was about the way Zegler talked about the movie. Fans expecting reverence for a beloved classic instead heard interviews where the young actress criticized the original story, dismissed the romantic arc, and implied that the 1937 version was weird, outdated, and, in her words, not 1937 anymore. To some, it was refreshing honesty. To others, it sounded like arrogance. And that's where the trouble really began.
But you don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
The marketing campaign tried to fix it. Disney allegedly pushed Zegler to reframe her statements, leading to oddly cheerful social posts like, "Can't wait to share Snow White with you all. So honored to play her." Posts that felt scripted and robotic, a far cry from her earlier sarcastic tone. Even the timing of those posts drew suspicion, with fans pointing out how carefully they dropped right after negative press waves, almost like digital damage control. Then came the release delays.
How she once thought Snow White was creepy, she doesn't like the prince.
Insiders claim the film was postponed due to unfinished effects or schedule adjustments. But behind the scenes, industry chatter suggested something much more serious. Audience hesitation, reshoots, and internal panic about how to move forward with a project surrounded by controversy. Whispers even circulated that Disney considered replacing Zegler, though that was never confirmed. When the film finally premiered, the result wasn't a box office disaster, but it wasn't a win either. Snow White performed tepidly.
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
With critics split and general audiences lukewarm at best. The visuals were praised, but the tone felt off. Some called it soulless, others called it overly modernized, and many pointed fingers squarely at Zegler, arguing that if you don't respect the role, you can't expect the audience to follow. That's the context surrounding this rumored Marvel audition. Because for many, Zegler still hasn't made peace with the Snow White fallout.
You know, I don't need your business. You know what? Maybe Disney does. Maybe you're a tool, you're a pawn in this film. You didn't write it. You didn't direct it. You have nothing to do with the creation of Snow White.
Right.
You should shut up and do the job.
And Marvel, already under scrutiny for a string of underperforming films, isn't exactly the safest place to rebuild a bruised reputation. But that hasn't stopped the rumors from spreading. Even before Snow White hit theaters, something strange was happening to Rachel Zegler's public image. Once hailed as Hollywood's new darling, discovered by Steven Spielberg himself and praised for her breakout role in West Side Story, Zegler began to shift in the public eye. The confident starlet became, in some circles, a cautionary tale of how quickly public goodwill can vanish in the age of social media. Part of the problem? Her mouth moved faster than her PR team. While most actors tread carefully during major studio press runs, Zegler often leaned into blunt honesty, sarcasm, and a defiant tone that didn't sit well with a fanbase already protective of Disney's most sacred classic.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again.
When she mocked the romantic storyline in Snow White, a film built on that very plot, many fans felt she was mocking them. What was meant to sound empowering came off to some as dismissive and ungrateful. And it didn't help that she doubled down. As the controversy swelled, clips began circulating online, some pulled from older interviews, others from fresh appearances. Zegler talking about being bored by the original or calling the prince a stalker became viral sound bites. In isolation, they might have been shrugged off, but taken together, they painted a picture, one that fans ran with, and the hashtags followed. From Not My Snow White to Nurse Zegler Out, it became clear that the internet wasn't just debating the film, they were debating her. Some defended her candor, saying she was a Gen Z star with Gen Z energy.
And we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love.
Others said she was a liability in a princess costume. The once bright sheen of Next Big Thing dulled into something more complicated, polarizing, political, unpredictable. Zegler's PR team seemed to recognize the shift. Her social media presence changed, more filtered, more cheerful, more brand-aligned. She tweeted upbeat messages about her love for Disney, posted childhood pictures of herself dressed as a princess, and made sure to publicly praise the Snow White legacy, but the timing felt too obvious, too strategic. And fans noticed. It wasn't just that she had opinions, it was that the tone kept shifting, from sarcastic to sentimental, from rebellious to reverent.
Somehow they're mutually exclusive, by the way. You've got to get rid of the love storyline and focus more on how she wants to be, CEO of IBM? I mean, what's Snow White's plan? She's Snow White. She's like a princess. Okay, whatever. What are the dwarfs now? Are they like little helpers who are going to help her get her Harvard education, her PhD at Harvard, while she works out her Mensa IQ?
As if she was trying to please everyone at once and pleasing no one in the process. At one point, she posted about Snow White and followed it up with a politically charged message within hours. It may have been unrelated, but in the eyes of fans already skeptical, it read as tone deaf. Whiplash, the damage was done. And while her talent has never been in question, her likability, the intangible currency that can make or break a star in today's Hollywood, was under serious threat, which is why the Marvel rumor hit so hard. Because whether she nailed the audition or not, the bigger question is this: would audiences even give her another chance? The whispers started quietly, just a few mentions in industry forums and private talent circles. But then, as is always the case with Marvel rumors, it snowballed. Rachel Zegler, fresh off the backlash from Snow White, had allegedly auditioned for a major role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. No studio confirmation, no casting sheet leak. Just a few well-placed murmurs picked up by the right people. And suddenly, social media was on fire. The immediate question, for what role? Speculation ran wild. Some believed she was being considered for a younger, edgier version of a legacy character, possibly a new mutant in Marvel's long-rumored X-Men reboot. Others floated the idea of her leading a Disney Plus series tied to the Young Avengers, or perhaps an original character meant to inject some Gen Z relatability into a franchise that's beginning to feel like it's running on nostalgia fumes. Nothing.
The ego on this girl's ridiculous. Wow.
Concrete has emerged. No casting call, no production timeline. But the very idea of Zegler being courted by Marvel at this moment, just months after Disney itself struggled to recover from her Snow White backlash, has sparked shock, confusion, and even outrage from parts of the fandom. To some, it's a savvy move. Marvel is no stranger to taking risks on controversial or overlooked actors. Robert Downey Jr. was a gamble once. So was Chris Pratt. The studio has a history of turning underdog casting choices into career-defining triumphs. And let's face it, Zegler is still a talented performer with undeniable screen presence. If she's going to rebuild, Marvel might be the only machine powerful enough to make that happen. But others see it differently. To a vocal portion of fans already exhausted by Marvel's recent missteps, rushed releases, overstuffed storylines, and uneven scripts, this feels like another risky bet when the franchise can least afford it. Why cast someone so recently mired in controversy? Why bring the same PR baggage that Disney's other arm is still trying to unpack? And then there's the internal politics. If the rumor is true, this means Marvel and Disney are playing a very delicate game. On one hand, they're publicly distancing from Snow White's failed reception. On the other, they're allegedly considering reinvesting in the very face of that backlash. Are they hedging their bets, trying to redeem Zegler quietly before she fades from relevance? Or is this a sign that the Disney empire is more fragmented behind the scenes than it lets on, the truth? No one really knows yet, and that's what's making this rumor so explosive. Because whether it's fact or fiction, the idea of Rachel Zegler stepping into a Marvel role right now doesn't just suggest a comeback, it suggests a calculated gamble on Hollywood's most complicated rising star.
For Snow White, it's coming to terms with finding herself and finding her inner voice and finding a sense of agency so that she can be a just ruler and a wonderful queen, because there's another one in town.
And if Marvel's betting on her, they better hope the audience is ready to forgive. If there's one thing Hollywood loves more than a good comeback, it's timing. The right moment can turn a canceled actor into a redemption story. The wrong one, a PR disaster with a sequel. And that's why so many are asking, if the Marvel rumors are true, is this just too soon for Rachel Zegler? Let's be clear, the fallout from Snow White hasn't settled. The social media firestorms, the YouTube takedowns, the reaction videos, the TikTok breakdowns, they're still rolling in. Every interview clip from months ago is still resurfacing. Every old tweet still being screenshotted. And yet, here she is, allegedly stepping back into the spotlight. Not with a heartfelt indie or a small stage theater run, but with Marvel, the biggest, most scrutinized entertainment franchise in the world. That's not a gentle return. That's a cannonball into the deep end, and the industry knows it. Public perception is still raw. Zegler has barely had time to craft a comeback narrative, let alone prove she's learned or grown. In fact, she hasn't said much of anything since the film's release. No major profile pieces, no clear arc of redemption, just scattered tweets and the occasional controlled PR post, none of which have shifted public opinion in any significant way. So why now? Some believe the Marvel rumor, if true, suggests Zegler or those managing her career don't believe.
She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Oh my God.
Nobody
Who
wants
wants
that.
a movie about true love? What kind of woman do we want out there seeking true love, Eliana? The outrage.
In cooling off periods, they're betting on noise, not silence. That jumping straight into a franchise with built-in fans is a better play than trying to win people back slowly. It's a bold strategy, but it could backfire. Marvel fans are known for being fiercely opinionated, and if they don't want someone in the universe, they make it known, loudly, consistently. Others suggest Marvel might be playing its own high-stakes game, with the franchise showing signs of fatigue, declining box office returns, mixed critical responses. They may be looking for younger, edgier stars who bring controversy and clicks. even if it's not universally positive attention, it's attention. And in today's media cycle, that might be all they care about. Still, one fact remains: Hollywood has a clock, and it doesn't tick the same for everyone. Some actors fall off the radar for years after a misstep before quietly resurfacing. Others get fast-tracked through scandal because they have the right backing, the right narrative, or the right look. Zegler's situation feels like it's trying to skip steps. There's no formal apology tour, no period of quiet artistic reinvention, just an alleged leap from disaster to blockbuster. And that's why people are nervous. Because if she stumbles again, this time, it won't just be her own reputation at stake. It'll be Marvel's. And for a brand already wobbling on shaky ground, that may be a risk they can't afford. For over a decade, Marvel was untouchable. Every casting choice, every trailer drop, every carefully plotted crossover sent fans into a frenzy.
They've put it all on her. Now that it failed, here's what happened. She made the cardinal error of saying "Free Palestine" on Twitter. So she could say all that men are bad and it's this and that, but once you do that, now they've put the entire weight of the failure upon her.
But that golden streak, it's faded. In recent years, the studio has faced a new challenge, a growing disconnect between its brand and its audience. Too many projects, too little cohesion, too much noise. And now, if the Rachel Zegler rumor is true, Marvel may be considering its riskiest bet yet. Let's break it down. Casting Zegler at this exact moment means attaching one of the world's most scrutinized entertainment machines to a name that's already become a lightning rod. She isn't a neutral rising star. She's a controversial figure, one that carries heavy internet baggage, split fan sentiment, and lingering animosity from the Disney fallout. In an era when Marvel desperately needs wins, bringing her into the fold could be seen as bold, or borderline reckless. So why do it? Simple. She still sparks headlines, she trends, she drives conversation. And while not all of that conversation is positive, in a fractured media landscape, attention equals power. Zegler represents a younger generation of performers, outspoken, imperfect, social media literate. She's divisive, yes, but she's also unforgettable. And if Marvel is looking to re-energize its fan base, or at least get people talking, she's one way to do it. But here's the catch.
Every hour I am in the outfit of Snow White wearing the dress. All 18 hours, I deserve to be paid for every single one.
Marvel is not immune to backlash anymore. In fact, it's more vulnerable than ever. The last few phases of the MCU have been met with skepticism. Some projects flopped at the box office. Others were critically panned. Even diehard fans have expressed Marvel fatigue, a phrase that would have been unthinkable just 5 years ago. The studio no longer gets a free pass. Every casting, every storyline, every rollout is under the microscope. And bringing in someone like Zegler, that puts even more pressure on a franchise already stretched thin, because if it works, if she's cast and delivers a compelling, layered performance that shifts the narrative, Marvel could be credited with orchestrating one of the fastest image rehabilitations in modern Hollywood. But if it doesn't, if audiences reject her again, if the controversy sticks, or worse, grows, it won't just be Zegler they blame, it'll be Marvel. And that could be catastrophic. Because at a time when Disney's other arms are still cleaning up the Snow White mess, Marvel may not be able to afford another miscalculation, especially not one they chose to walk into.
Oh my god, it's a really incredible story. You're making this girl boss story based on an important father figure. Her father tells her to be brave and strong. Don't you think that there's a, something redeeming about men in the story?
No matter how the Marvel rumor plays out, one thing is crystal clear. Rachel Zegler is at a defining crossroads in her career. Every decision she makes from here could either rebuild her image or cement the criticisms that have haunted her since the Snow White backlash began. When she was cast as Maria in West Side Story, Zegler was the industry's golden girl. Handpicked by Steven Spielberg, blessed with a powerhouse voice and stage presence, she was hailed as the future of Hollywood. For a while, that prediction looked spot on. Her talent wasn't in question. It still isn't. What's changed is the tone around her. She's no longer just a performer. She's become a lightning rod for discourse on feminism, on wokeness, on legacy franchises, on Hollywood PR itself. Some of it fair, some of it not so much. But all of it plays into a complicated public perception that no actor wants to battle when they're only a few years into their career. So what now? If Marvel passes, or the role never existed to begin with, Zegler still faces an uphill climb. Not because she lacks talent, but because the internet never forgets. She can't tweet her way out of this moment. She can't charm her way out of it with a few interviews. What she needs is something actors don't always have, a strategic pause. Some believe she should pivot, take on smaller roles, go indie, return to the stage where she's always shined.
I'm sure a lot of people will assume it's a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, babe.
Let the noise die down. Let the performances speak for themselves. That's the long game. It's slow, but it works. Plenty of actors have rebuilt after worse, but there's also a more aggressive path, the one she seems to be considering if the Marvel rumors are true. Jump into another blockbuster. Fight fire with fire. Prove she's still bankable, still relevant, still capable of anchoring a billion-dollar franchise. The problem? It's high risk. And at this stage, every misstep is magnified tenfold. And then there's the identity piece, the deeply personal drama that surfaced during her time on West Side Story. Zegler's public dispute with Spielberg's team, where she reportedly pushed back against doubts about her Latina heritage, only deepened her complex relationship with the industry. Her now infamous quote, "Did I have to bring my abuelita just to prove I'm Latina?" went viral, sparking sympathy in some circles and side eyes in others. That moment, like so many others, showed how quickly she can become the headline and how rarely she controls it. So whether she takes a role at Marvel, returns to musicals, or disappears for a year to regroup, one thing is certain. This is her inflection point.
And they postponed the release of this thing, Ben, for a year because their star, Rachel Zegler, was so unlikable, told all Trump supporters that they could off, excuse me, but she did. That was just in November. They didn't even know she was going to do that one. Said she hated Snow White, mocked the fact that there was a prince, and that she falls in love as opposed to leaning into her own power.
The next project, the next interview, the next move, it won't just define her reputation. It'll define whether Rachel Zegler becomes Hollywood's comeback queen or a cautionary tale of talent derailed by timing and tone. So here we are. A rumor about a secret Marvel audition has thrust Rachel Zegler right back into the spotlight, and not everyone's thrilled to see her there. Some say she's rushing back in before the smoke from Snow White has even cleared. Others believe she's earned the right to move on, to keep chasing roles, and to define her own comeback. But whether you see her as misunderstood or mismanaged, one truth remains. This moment matters. If the Marvel rumor is true, and she lands the part, Zegler could be stepping into a cinematic universe known for both building legends and chewing them up. She could use the platform to rewrite the narrative, prove her critics wrong, and evolve into a more measured, media-savvy version of the star she's always had the potential to be. But if it's not true, if the audition never happened, or if Marvel ultimately passes, she's still at the center of a conversation about timing, accountability, and reinvention. And Hollywood will be watching what she does next. Because in this industry, your second act isn't just about talent, it's about how well you play the long game. So what do you think? Is Rachel Zegler's rumored leap to Marvel a bold power, move, or a tone-deaf miscalculation? Could she become one of Hollywood's most compelling comeback stories? Or is this the kind of risk that backfires before it even begins? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you've made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest celebrity stories and entertainment shakeups. And hey, stick around.